Welcome to the opening night of the Meet the Press's Indie Lit Symposium and the announcement of the winner of the 2020 bpNichol Chapbook Award. I'm Meet the Press's co-founder Stuart Ross, and this is Amelia Doze, a writer, artist, and filmmaker in London, Ontario, and we are your hosts for this evening's festivities.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Before we go any further, we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that although we are gathering in virtual space, Meet the Presses rests on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We encourage you to learn the history of the land you are on as we reflect on the past and acknowledge the changes that can be made going forward in the process of truth and reconciliation. Now, before we hear brief readings from each of the shortlisted poets, we'd like to tell you a bit about the award.
My concern is to somehow teach what I see as the validity of having as many perceptual systems available to you as possible, that this is the only way to really survive in a world in which the insistence on one level of meaning has become paramount. So that the only survival technique in such a world is to become a master of as many systems of perception as possible, so that you can move with freedom through all systems of perception.
The annual bpNichol Chapbook Award recognizes excellence and spirit of adventure in Canadian poetry in English, published in chapbook form by micropresses across Canada.
The award celebrates the work and life of bpNichol, a beloved Canadian poet who devoted his writing career to expanding the possibilities of language, creating visual and sound poetry, in addition to his dozens of books and countless chapbooks. BP was a mentor to many young writers and inspiring community builder. He was an advocate for poetry in general and an enthusiastic champion of small press publishing in particular.
BP once said, "Supporting small press is supporting literature on the cutting edge. Small press is the guardian of literary culture and free speech." These are the principles upon which the Meet the Presses Collective was founded over a decade ago.
Barry Philip Nichol was born in 1945 and died in 1988, just a few days before his 44th birthday. Toward the end of his life, BP co-founded, along with Philip McKenna of the Phoenix Foundation, a poetry chapbook award that, after his death, was renamed in his honor. This award has continued under the aegis first of the Phoenix Foundation and now of the Meet the Press Collective.
The prize is awarded to a poetry chapbook judged to be the best submitted. The author of the winning chapbook receives $4,000 and the publisher receives $500. Awarded annually since 1986, the bpNichol Chapbook Award is administered by the Meet the Presses Collective and is usually presented at our annual Indie Literary Market. In these pandemic times, though, it is being awarded online tonight as we kick off our 4-day Indie Lit Symposium.
The $4,000 prize to the writer of the winning chapbook is generously provided by an anonymous donor. The $500 prize to the publisher of the winning chapbook is generously provided by two fine, innovative writers, Michael Dean and Carl Jurgens. We are grateful for their significant support.
We were honored this year to have acclaimed writers Kanisha Lubrin and Suvankam Tamavongsa as judges for the award. We'd like to thank them for their enthusiasm and their dedication in reading and considering all of the works submitted.
Before we announce the winner of this year's award, we'd like to share a series of 5 to 10 minute readings by each of the shortlisted poets. We congratulate all of you for your remarkable work.
We'll start off with a bio of each of the four poets, and then we'll move into the readings. Tolu Oloruntoba, the author of the chapbook Manubrium from Anstruther Press, was born in Ibadan, Nigeria, and practiced medicine before his current work in project management. His poetry has appeared or is forthcoming in Pleiad, Columbia Journal Online, Obsidian, This Magazine, and the CMAJ, and it's been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. Tolu lives in Metro Vancouver.
Oubah Osman, the author of the chapbook Hereditary Blue from Anstruther Press, is a Somali Canadian living in Toronto. She has been published in Room Magazine, The Puritan, and Unpublished City Volume 2. Oubah is an MFA candidate at the University of Guelph.
Nisa Malli, the author of the chapbook Remitting from Baseline Press, is a writer and researcher born in Winnipeg and living in Toronto. She holds a BFA in writing from UVic and has completed residencies at the Banff Centre and Artscape Gibraltar Point. Remitting is Nisa's first chapbook.
Emily Liu, the author of the chapbook Night Leaves Nothing New from Baseline Press, was born in Nanjing in 1991. She earned her Bachelor of Science at the University of Toronto and her Doctor of Medicine at Queen's University. Currently completing residency training in psychiatry, she lives in London, Ontario. Her work has appeared in CMAJ, Loose Leaf, and The Letters Page.
Hi everyone, my name is Tolu Oloruntoba. It's a delight to be joining you this evening. I'll be reading from Manubrium and some other recent work. I thank the Meet the Press Collective and Anstruther Press, as well as my fellow shortlisted poets. I've really enjoyed reading their chapbooks. The first poem is called In Fitu. Here is the city, dying twin, papyraceous, siphoned from naval siege ramps, neighbors smuggling petrol out of the country and Kalashnikovs in. Here I, anointed, teach preformation. From miniature homunculi we sprout pre-made in costly condominiums, grown like Lugard's bad seed. I deliver mothers of their children, sending Leopold maneuvers to warn them of this place. It is their partners that are hysterical, gripping my shirt collar, their migrant uteri roughing me up. Sympathetic pregnancy, we call it, and yes, I'm aware of the absurd history of hysterics and obstetrics. Perpetually in fitu, midwives ride the mountain of my mother in vain. The cut under is fluvial, a wide confederacy disbanded. I bustle to bind the infirm with mortar dust, who want me to bind faster, who must never know my work is not science yet. We have returned to dark arts. Burial shroud children guarding the perimeter. They bivouac in the charnel barracks. They lob their fast-forward wilt into domes above us. My guild is fled. Succor me. Winch me now. Next is the creation of man. There, amidst the dry faucets of water cycles, the ketones of God's breath pricked my nostrils, stunned as I was after the birth canal, and I became a living soul. From that vapor nanites industrious had gone to my washing cylinder core and set it to spinning. There's a secret of perpetual motion we've failed to replicate, to pass the torque to progeny and, worn, be swapped out, world without end. Perhaps that's why I don't dwell on those first 7 days or trillion years and ask nothing for myself anymore. And so my gravitational world drew me to metallic feet while my parents lay serpentine in a sleep they made. The zygote knows something or nothing of violence, but I'm told there had been a miscarried world before this, flushed in a deluge of red. And God said, let's try this again. Next poem is called A Famished Road, and it was based off of the novel called The Famished Road by Ben Okri. The spirit child's human father today would have tried to rise in underground fight clubs, seeking money with a raccoon eye, a black tiger's welts. Hunter-forager, the caves of his eye sockets would be painted with hemoglobin. There are those who wrestle against tetramorph cherubim with many-angled faces in constant feint and prevail. But like most workers, he would be expected to throw fights for payday, his body inventing an agrarian society, domed knots of hamlets rising nightly, salting fields, irrigating the slashes of ploughing knuckles with sweat. Some wear the chokehold of economy as neckties, others as necklaces. But why climb the pyramid or blast the mine of bodies? Some swear the seat of life and death is always already inside the thing. Our blood feud is with the thicket curse of the earth, the atomic substrate of all bodies, all societies, accursed with spoiler quarks. Build, then, tear down all you want, Nimrod. The ox can kick, the axle pricks. You were your own turnstile, receiving bus cards to daily austere offices, the arm choking you in the bus seat, picking your own pocket, your own. Next poem is Everything Must Go. In an inversion of the crucifixion of Christ, my father crucified his mother. I know it was love. When the nerves below her stroke shriveled her arm and leg into a spasm of granite, he came home with the holy men that carved tallies into her flesh behind arcane doors, rubbing night and somehow no tetanus into the cuts. It must have been love, how he tried to bludgeon her hand into obedience. Given hundreds of years, his invention of physiotherapy might have become medicine. He did know how to work a captive audience, though, starting where all surgery began, carpentry. The bandage, the crossbar, he strapped one spastic hand and one writhing other to, recreated the upright rack he asked our help, stretching her out upon, to outrace the balled fist, the frozen elbow, the bent knee beyond repair on daily schedule, her screams in aboriginal language beyond crumpled speech cortices. She had pleaded for our help with her eyes, wondering at our strange cruelty. Below her cross, in the corridor upstairs, was the scaffold we built to receive her, the one we tore down quiet and urgent 2 years later. After the morgue was the fire, we bagged it all, uprooted the bed, clothes, trinkets of war, castles of pill bottles, the spoons, even plates we took turns feeding her with. Foam mattress, crepe bandages pungent with menthol, cushioned chair, everything went quickly to the pyre by the banana trees behind the house. To the last one, a weight broken, we were souped that night, and after the furnace, rainstorm collecting her memory through the windows, rifling the one sepia photo we kept. There was a lighter patch where her bed had been, and silence. The hurricane lamp was an eye we gathered around as the questions we hurled up fell outside, worrying the roof, and we, buried hurriedly inside, burned. My last poem for tonight is called Grosbeak. Grosbeak, fat lip. The gravity feeder is my sundial. I didn't choose this red flag grandmothers strove to darken. The mouth opened a lot as a child, the family strove to close. There was perhaps some internal wonder always fighting its way out, their perpetual worry about closed mouths around elders when chewing or dead, of doors ajar, a flick of someone's finger always near when I forgot. I kept distance, unlearning to measure hand spans by sight, cubits from my cheek, velocity of impact, the physics of gerontocratic nests. I had heard some had had work done. Plastic surgery, that saving phrase suggested a melting of excess off, molding what was left, perfect, remaking the inadequate, an end to tucking the lip into mirrors, a possibility of grins. All I needed was money, that'll show them. but there was the aerophagia. I'd had my mouth open long enough to eat more of the world than most, and in time I knew to ask, what is wrong with me? And at last I knew to answer, nothing. Everything I've said is true and necessary and beautiful, and I'm essential, and I'll have nothing more to say when I die, but my mouth will be open. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Oubah Osman, and I'll be reading from Hereditary Blue, which is the title of my chapbook, published by Anstruther Press. Horner hybridity for all Somali women. You stem from me in all forms, stream from me in all places. You and I, long stretched us over continents. Us together, landscape bodies and sinkhole eyes. Us together, open cityscapes, open wounds. We are the gun and also the martyr. Sometimes we expand like Shebele. Sometimes we fall simple and sudden like Asal. But there are ways to be two and also to be one. Ways to know you and then to know you again. El-Brak. It was on a steed on a wall between two masajids that she flew, each step a fresh gaze against the iris. She, El-Brak, our lightning creature from the heavens. In India, she is a mirage of land and sea. Gold upon a dominant sheet, she looks to the side to watch herself, impressive in Hyderabad textures, prominent in beige exteriors, curled exteriors, jeweled and decorated by greenery. She pauses again in Senegal, where an impassive glass coast rinses itself against forgiving Africa. El-Brak intercepts horizon, half forward. She too gazes sideways through the mirrored left and right, her creator an immutable fog, recreating her again and again in the imaginary. Between Syria and Mecca, she delivered Hajra's Ibrahim through the Philippines, lifted into Maraneo sculpture, wood, copper, and wire. El-Brak of the lake, now a tempest carrying a flame. In Palestine, her stones descend, billowing against a captive air. Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa, the prophetic sets down and looks towards a golden dome, noticing the future walking shyly towards him. Bookmark. The past moves me from closed closets to sealed envelopes. The past moves me into previously occupied bedrooms, the small Tupperware and fenced lawns of the same tenant. On Saturdays, it tucks me under a thumb. On Sundays, I lie over the shoulder. Sometimes I am cloth-like, sometimes a pin in a scarf. Sometimes I am an empty space myself, other times fluid and spilling over zippers, only to disappear into a previous space. I am an empty gesture in time, located behind consequence, a movement into a moment, a memory-based thing, a flag simmering under a foreign ray, a bookmark on a page. Summertime. The sun slides a cement mirage over the streets, a melting together of you and I and the city. Your house under the government stands with conviction above the sway. One day they came and painted it honey yellow. One day they moved you out. Your mother shook her head. This was another hardened dome of feeling, occupied in the promise, belonging to some faraway cabinet where it did not matter. When she speaks of home, a different voice cuts in with, how do you say, and no word in English. In my mind there is sand, shrubs, even a place for people like me. I do not know this place for sure. I obey the image that comes from her. And when she thinks of home, I see it like a cement mirage, a layering of two scenes. And when I recite, her tone enters mine and folds itself east towards Mecca. It is easier to give thanks in her speech and to know home when her knowledge is here. It is easy to understand that two is always a way of understanding one. Delay both ways. A woman shifts her weight and the gesture ripples across this platform. A sale on red rose, 5 boxes to a bag. She wrinkles under the load of this small triumph. Or perhaps it is the pounding subway that carves into her, the way air slaps across the shared intersection before we too become a direction. A withdrawn space hums on below the thankless horizon, an unknown, a subtraction. Perhaps permanence is a maze of tarred tracks and steam screeches, but only when you see it from down there, far enough below land to be liminal. And if I step over, or they step over, perhaps the mouse will take a new route, reimagine instinct, an impulse towards a newer subtracted space, or something else. This moment has ended as many others will. The tracks keep its trained route, and I keep my path too. When I arrive, I drink my tea inside of a spot on a map on a wall, and she too will find herself with a cup full. There will be another time for distance between us, another time to wonder about this looming and that vertical scan, and many other purposeless things. But there is no merit in thinking on the in-between, only more delays. Drop, after Cornelius Eady's brutal imagination. When I die, it's like I'm sitting in the back seat of your car. The air rolls over me, and the warm vagueness of eyes simmers, all of me a gesture towards dying. When I die inside of the back seat of your car. I count backwards into the lonely road. My heart tunnels out, and you look on from a blinking light that points east. When I die, my eyes are sealed lash to lash. I braid myself against time. In the car, I am inside of a humming body. Red lights coat me. In passing, they turn white hot. In the back seat, there are murmurs, a rumbling, and then a quick drop. When I think about dying, I think about God clapping his hands just once, and all of us falling one by one into a memory. I trace myself along this memory, watch my heart aim itself outward, take on shapes, until I drop again. Finally, Hereditary Blue. The night my mother died, she was tending to the garden in the gloom of our broken porch light. I called to her and asked why she was knee-deep in the dirt. She called back, "Women are red until men turn them blue." I was lazy from the meal she had made, so I didn't get up to ask what she meant, and I thought nothing of the small rushing noise from the hose. It was my sister who came downstairs to ask where mother had gone. Before I could answer, she was already opening the door to check the garden. All at once, my mother floated into the living room, on a tide of sinking blues and yellows, her wrists grinning like twin Cheshire cats. I watched as the colors made their way through our halls and into our basement. I didn't know what to say. It took us a week to drain the house. We cried for the memory of her body emptying and the garden that would go unloved. No matter how hard we tried, we could never completely erase that night. Each room held memories of the flood. Between the tiles, there were hints of periwinkle and dimples of red. Cabinets lined themselves in rainbow. We lit uncies to drive away the madness. Months later, when I asked my great-grandmother in a dream why my mother used her gardening scissors that way, she said, "My daughter held those hues inside of her until one day she couldn't hold on to them any longer. Her body was so heavy with them." She paused to survey me with her indigo eyes. "And could you imagine carrying all of that around, Yo-Yo? Wouldn't you want to be just a little lighter?" The next morning, I stand in the shower for so long that I think I see pools of purple curve around each of my toes. When I shake away the colors, they expand blue. I shut my eyes and see blue. I water the plants and see them bloom blue. Something about this presence picks me up and throws me against a wall. I wake up with that blue song in my head, telling me there is nothing else but this insistent color. Nothing else but this.
Thank you so much to the Meet the Presses Collective for inviting the four of us back to read. This is an incredible shortlist, and it's an honor to be nominated. I'm reading again tonight from Remitting, my chapbook published with Baseline Press last fall. And maybe just a quick warning before I read. The poems in this chapbook were written and published pre-pandemic. They deal with issues of chronic illness, emergency rooms, the medical system, and may be a little different to hear in our current situation. L'Hôpital Notre-Dame. The angels of the triage station know you, are waiting patiently to be admitted into their sanctum. They won't judge you for slumping in the plastic waiting room chairs meant to hold one body at a time that doesn't need holding up, for wearing nail polish that dulls the pulse oximeter suckling your finger, for mispronouncing the names of your possible causes. Sweet miracle, they know you are a medical mystery, permitted to plead your case here many times over. Ahead of you, an axe-split kneecap, arrhythmias, the worst half of a bar fight, food poisoning, a suicide risk, second-degree burns. The waiting room is eternal and atemporal. You have always been here. They have always been here. Here, everyone is always in the middle of an emergency, neither dying nor recovered. The most urgent cases are already inside. The well are well on their way home. It is daybreak, no matter what time it is. The loved ones are coming or trying to come or calling the signalless phones of the eventual patients. Here the doctors are spoken of but never seen, hidden somewhere behind the ever-swinging doors. Here the waiting room occupants are swaddled for warmth in the hum of hospital machines. Here the hymns are sung in sync to chest compressions. Here the angels move like refracted light bent between the aisles, floating 2 inches off the ground in cloud-like white sneakers. When asked, report your symptoms as best you can, first chronologically, and again starting with the most believable problem. Surely you have told this story before, here or in an identical room. On a scale of 1 to 10, how trustworthy are you? How long can you hold your breath underwater? How often do you leave your body for other, less contested haunts? Are you well in your dreams? With what mouth do you name these symptoms, or whatever brings you here, to Our Lady's waiting room? Anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis came down like possession, like a respiratory belly flop, like the gods' hard heel to the chest when mortals refuse to pray. At what diameter is throat closure considered an emergency? At least the ghosts knew their first aid. They nudged me awake with cold noses and carried me back to the hospital, sitting like cats on whatever hurt most. Lumbar puncture. Present your spine to the resident and his audience of almost doctors, next year's earnest needle wielders, sweet-faced believers in science, interns here to learn the precise point of entry for a surface wound. Percutaneous means through the skin, but this is bone deep, not puncture, but punch. More pain than most of them will know in their lives a prescriptive colon answer. The doctors are more scared than you. Things can happen at the blind head of a needle, in the laying of hands, in an open-faced excavation. The interns race each other to name the risks: headaches, herniation, hematomas, tonsillar descent. This is how they find your fused lumbar. 3 tries in, the topical worn off, the experts unsure why you're resisting being pinned. Here is the cause of your shallow grand plie, your unwillingness to be bent like a bird's wing. Floodplain. Tongue mossed over and algae blooming my eyes, skeins of palm scum knitting my hair. I am at the bottom of the lake, swallowing the night's pill, zipping myself into a numb bed under the current. The list of things I've done for my body is too long to comb out and lay dry, so let everything go to weeds. The shore walls and the lake bed and the city's flood plans unweaving around me. The collective nouns for this are all liquid. A flood of pain, a drowning of pain. It's a pummeling, even underwater. And the last poem for tonight, The Illness Factory. In my fever, I labored. I did the work of diagnostics and daily maintenance, of pretending to be well. I mapped out the best time of day for every activity, rewired my motor neurons to the house electrical so I could tense the lights off, routed my tear ducts to the pipes to flood the water tank. Every internal business process optimized and streaming. But the truth was, I never committed to the role. I was a bad worker of my own body. I rolled in late from the day shift in my real life, called in sick to my own sick bed, spent too much on prescriptions and let profit margins hover in the red. My safety standards a hazard to everyone in the vicinity. On shift, I was usually one down and under the influence, hooked on the numb cloud I'd float out on every night, and the reassurance of knowing at least I was following doctor's orders. I couldn't quit the business entirely, but I shut down the research wing. Fed up with not knowing what the factory floor was making, I halted all non-essential production. I called myself into the office for a lecture on commitment to the cause, gave myself a bad reference, lay down in front of the machines I'd built, and begged them to dismantle me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Liu, and I'll be reading 2 poems from my chapbook, Night Leaves Nothing New, from Baseline Press. I wanted to take this chance to say how thankful I am that I've had a chance to revisit some of these poems on the occasion of the chapbook being shortlisted for the bpNichol Chapbook Award. Having a chance to revisit them personally, but also to revisit them, sharing them with you and its readers last year or this year. So thank you, all of you, for listening along. The first poem is going to be November Sunday Morning Song. It is November again. It is not Sunday, and I think we're past the morning at this point. So here goes. November Sunday Morning Song. Planet 535 is all salty sea with no aftershores, like our daughters and their oceans. Blaming the colonists for making vestigial paper cuttings to survey lots and measure the depth of grievances beneath the sea moons. They look up from their saline ornamental gardens adrift on waning ancient waters, mallow rooted in the river deltas of the southeast. The waters pour over the banks like the urinary habits of a grandmother. To the flooded fields come workers with their plows and shoulder poles, ankle and wrist deep. Soak Tie Guanyin to wait for morning. I love sitting down. I love the thirst of paper. Every slope of contact, moonlight. The apartment's a mess. Rest. Thank you. Thank you. Rest. I have to say this from this poem. The line that speaks to me most right now is, the apartment's a mess. I need to do some vacuuming afterwards, after I finish reading you this next poem. This one is called Early Season. And the Pokemon that appears in this poem is Typhlosion. Typhlosion is the final evolutionary form of a Cyndaquil, a fire Pokemon. And one of its attacks, I really like playing it in like the Pokemon games. because one of its attacks is that like it erupts in rage or volcano fire, whatever you want to call it, but it's very effective. So the poem is called Early Season. This ending between your arms and drowning, its shape and contour seeping through the train platform. Don't worry, I was dreaming into public, the dream expanding empty city corridors. Passenger side, I encountered 10,000 refracting fish and their march through stale houses. I was Typhlosion running naked through an early season. Peach petals in your hair last February while we skated on domed lake ice, trembling for fear of overstep and no bystanders and dying. Don't worry, a thorough kiss still contains loneliness, a love creasing another mountain line.
Okay, we generally receive about 100 chapbook submissions each year. I think there were about 100 again this year, and it's such a distinguished shortlist. And thanks so much to all of those wonderful writers. Amelia, turn on your microphone, please. There
Hello.
we go. So now we are pleased to announce the winner of the 2020 bpNichol Chapbook Award.
Woo! Okay, and I get to announce the winner. This is so exciting. I've never done this before. Give me a little second here to drink it in. This year's winner is Nisa Malli for her chapbook Remitting, published by London, Ontario's Baseline Press. We extend our warmest congratulations to you, Nisa.
So the judges, Suvankum and Kanisha, have provided a citation for the winning chapbook, for Nisa's chapbook, that they wanted us to share this evening. And I believe you have that, Amelia.
Oh, I don't have anything extra here.
Well,
oh boy.
I'll read it myself then.
We thought we were going to get through it.
So this was the citation from the judges. Remitting delicately weaves contemporary lyric with the precise registers of medical and conversational speech. Nisa Malli's lucidity of thought makes for the kind of surprising vision that is the hallmark of a poetry of hard-won insight and abundant music. An assured and singular voice with an unwillingness to be bent like a bird's wing. Drink that in for a bit. We're really, really pleased that Karen Schindler, publisher and editor at Baseline Press, is with us live tonight to accept the award on behalf of Nisa Malli, who can't be here due to Wi-Fi and other techie reasons. So please, Karen Schindler.
Thank you, Staurt and Amelia. On behalf of Nisa and Baseline Press, I want to extend our big thanks to the Meet the Presses Collective, not only for the bpNichol Award, but also for all the work they do every year to create a space for the small press community and readers to gather and connect, whether it's in person or online. Nisa has asked me to read a brief thank you for her, so this is from Nisa. I am beyond honored to have been shortlisted alongside such exciting writers. I'm thankful to the judges and the Meet the Presses Collective for creating an excellent celebration of small presses this year and all years. I'm moved by the care and precision Baseline brings to its chapbooks, and I'm so pleased to have Christina Corey's work gracing the cover. And I would just like to add that I couldn't be more grateful that Baseline had the opportunity to publish Remitting last year. When I received Nisa's manuscript 2 years ago, a collection that focuses on chronic illness and pain, I was immediately drawn in by these intimate, haunting poems and the work that they do. And I extend my thanks to Nisa for trusting Baseline with this collection. I also want to congratulate the other shortlisted poets and Anstruther Press. And I want to add a thank you to the sponsors for the publishing portion of this award, Michael Dean and Carl Jurgens. And finally, a thank you to this year's contest judges for the hard work that they did, Canisia Lubrin and Subankam Thamavongsa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen, and congratulations. And now we will invite Carl Jurgens and Michael Dean, who have generously provided the Publisher Award, to say a few words.
I'm here. I don't see me on the screen though. Oh, okay, start my video. Is it working?
There you are.
Says, I see Michael Dean. Okay. Well, there's Michael. Hi, Michael.
I can see you. Hi, Carl. I see you.
Oh, am I on? Should
Go
I
ahead.
speak? Oh,
You're
okay.
on.
I
Yes,
can't see
you can-
myself, so I don't know where I am. Oh, yeah, there. Okay, yeah, good. Okay. Tully Verone asked me to open with this riddle, so I will. How is an elephant similar to a grape? They both have trunks, except the grape. It's a great pleasure to take part in this year's Meet the Presses Indie Lit Symposium. Thanks to all in attendance. As a panelist, I can't see you all, but I know you're out there, so thank you. I'm speaking to you from the city of Windsor, traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, including the Odawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. Huge thanks to this year's Meet the Presses organizers for arranging this online gathering to circumvent the global pandemic. Stay safe, everybody. Wear your masks. Important. I've been part of the Meet the Press group for many years. In the past, I served as a judge of the bpNichol Chapbook Award, and I'm very pleased to join Michael Dean in helping with the Publisher's Prize for this year's bpNichol Chapbook Award. Hearty congratulations to all those who entered the competition, the runners-up, and the winning author and press selected by this year's judges. 3 cheers, hooray! And I hope you enjoy all the wonderful panels that are set up for the coming weekend. Thanks again to the organizers. Very best to all of you, and stay healthy. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Do I just start now? I'll just start. I'm Michael Dean, and so congratulations to Nisa Malli, the winner of the bpNichol Prize, and to Baseline Press, the publisher of the book. Carl and I are happy to be a support to the publisher of the bpNichol Prize publisher, Baseline Press. And I wanted to mention also that 2 edgy writers, Brian Dodora and Jim Smith, are former contributors to the publisher part of the prize. And I bring them in because, as BP said, small presses are the guardians of literary culture. And I know that this group of the four of us, this little group, all feel honored to support small presses in this little way, and to support the Small Press Fair. I really think it's terrific what the Small Press Fair does in general, and I think they're doing a great job of doing it online this year. So everyone here at the Institute of Linguistic Ontogenetics, of course, are happy to be part of this. Thank you. Back to you, Stuart.
Thanks, Carl, and thanks, Michael. If we were live at the Indie Lit Market now, this is the moment when we would hand out the plaques and checks for the winning writer and publisher, but those have already been sent out and received. Over to you, Stuart.
So the winning chapbook, Aaron Tucker, a member of the Meet the Presses Collective, has been posting in the chat there how to get the shortlisted chapbooks. The winning chapbook and the other 3 shortlisted chapbooks, they're all available directly from their publishers, Anstruther Press and Baseline Press, or through the Meet the Presses website at meetthepresses.wordpress.com. And just before we get to the winding up stuff, I do want to mention right behind me there, I'll get out of the way, is a beautiful painting by Barbara Caruso. And Barbara Caruso, amazing painter working from the late 1960s into the towards her death in the early mid 2000s, first decade of the 2000s. She was also a great collaborator with bpNichol. So I thought, have some Barbara Caruso in the background. Once again, we would like to thank our judges. We'd like to thank the Carl and Michael for donating the prize money for the publishers, and our wonderful anonymous donor for providing the prize for the author of the winning chapbook. We'd like to thank all of the writers and publishers for sending their books in for consideration for the bpNichol Chapbook Award. You can find details on how to enter next year's bpNichol Chapbook Award. It's on the Meet the Presses website as well.
Sorry, just entranced by you, Stuart, as usual. We'd also like to thank the Meet the Press Collective who are running this year's Indie Lit Symposium. Gary Barwin, Paul Dutton, Beth Follett, Stuart Ross, Aaron Tucker, Jacqueline Valencia, and Tali Voron.
And as I mentioned, please do visit the Meet the Presses website, meetthepresses.wordpress.com, for info on how to enter next year's Chapbook Award, bpNichol Chapbook Award, and also to order books, chapbooks that you've heard the readings from tonight.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. It was really fun, and hope you will register for some of the amazing panels we have coming up over the next 3 days at our Indie Lit Symposium.
Sort of an emporium too, isn't it? I'll just go through the schedule pretty quickly. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, right here in this exact, well, not here in this room, but in this exact same online universe. The Roots of Small Press, moderated by Aaron Tucker, featuring representatives from Above Ground Press, Proper Tales Press, Book Hub Press, and Coach House Books. On Saturday at noon, The Future of Small Press, guest moderated by the wonderful Lee Nash, featuring Metatron Press, Gap Riot Press, Anstruther Press, and Knife Fork Book. And a little later in the afternoon at 2 o'clock on Saturday, Outlaw Presses, Pushing the Boundaries of Small Press, moderated by Tali Voron, featuring No Press, Noir Zed, The Blasted Tree, Simulacrum Press, Angel House Press, and Room 302 Books. And on the 4th and final day of our first ever Indie Lit Symposium Emporium Extravaganza and Barn Dance, noon on Sunday, Small Press and the Craft of Bookmaking. I'll be moderating that one, and it will feature representatives from Puddles of Sky Press, Baseline Press, and the Imprint Collective. And at 2 o'clock on Sunday, Magazines and Journals, moderated by Tali Voron. The panel will feature people from Carousel Magazine, Filling Station These Days, and Augur Magazine. So please register and attend some of these wonderful panels this weekend.
Have a great night, everyone, and we look forward to being with you virtually this weekend.
Pleasure to host with you, Amelia.
Pleasure.